Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bill. Today's video is going to be a continuation of the War Magic videos. We're going to look at divine spells today and what would be more or less game changers on the battlefield. And you're looking at medieval battlefields, so massive armies, massive areas, invading castles, fighting ship-to-ship combat, things like that. So without further ado, we are in the Ultimate Magic book today in Pathfinder 1E. We are going to dive into the Cleric spell list first, 1 to 6 level. We might cover 0 level spells if there's any in here, but I don't think there is. In addition to that, we will then, after finishing the Clerics list, we will jump into the Druid list. So let's start with level 1 Cleric spells. If I need any more information, we'll look it up in the book and we'll read it and get a better idea how these spells work. I don't know the spells outside of the core rule book inside and out like I would normally. Decomposed corpse turns a corpse into a clean skeleton. Not that great. Diagnose disease. Detect and identifies diseases. If your army's being plagued with a disease, that can be very useful. But you need some way to cleanse the disease afterwards. So if you're using that in combination with higher level spellcasters, that would be great. But by itself, that's not going to help you in a massive battlefield situation. Forbid action. Target obeys your command to not do something. That can be useful if you could get that to affect the commander or a lieutenant that's issuing orders. But where it's just one target, it's not going to benefit you enough. Know the enemy. Gains +10 on monster knowledge checks. If your enemy forces is using monsters and stuff, that could be very useful, especially if your side's had a couple of combats with this and you don't know any weaknesses or how to take it on. Murderous command. Target is compelled to kill its ally. That can be very useful, especially if you cast that on somebody that's next to, say, the commander. So with your strike force, with your PCs that would go in to kind of disrupt the enemy forces, that would be very useful. In a regular battlefield, you would need to put that on like one-use items. Say, give your second, third, fourth row shield wall people slings and sling ammo, and the ammos are that. On impact, the target needs to make a save or turn and try to kill its ally. That can be very useful if used as one-use item in that way. Ray of Sickening. Ray makes the subject sickened. Not going to be that great because it's a single target, but their armor wouldn't matter. So if you have a whole bunch of knights on horseback and you can hit them all with that by having multiple uses of this go off at the same time, or you put this on sling bullets again or on arrowheads again and the arrows just have to touch the target, that changes things. Restore corpse. Skeletal corpse grows flesh. Remove sickness, suppresses disease, nausea, and the sickened condition. Sanctify corpse prevents a corpse from becoming an undead creature. That could be useful if you could get that casted over and over again after a battle's over, especially if you're fighting a whole bunch of undead as an undead army. Summon minor monster. Summons 1d3 tiny animals. I don't have a good use for that, but that could get entertaining. Second level cleric spells. Animate Dead Lesser. Creates one skeleton or zombie. Imagine having a dozen clerics following a battle that all have ones of Animate Undead or Animate Dead Lesser. They could just pick the bodies that are whole and go, okay, another skeleton to the army, another zombie to the army. And the way that the ones work, they have 50 charges, so you could get 50 of them per cleric or or spellcaster that's following doing this. Arrow of Law harms and possibly dazes chaotic creatures. Useful if you're fighting chaotic outsiders mostly. Boiling Blood. Target take fire damage. Orcs get +2 strength. Targets take fire damage. So let's look up Boiling Blood, see how many targets. Range is medium, 100 feet plus 10 feet per level, so it's decent range, just not great range. 1 creature per 3 levels. So to take out, say, a bunch of people, it's not going to be that useful. And they only take 1 point of fire damage per round. So say your novices in the shield wall, your green soldiers, they'd maybe have 4 hit points. You'd have to do 4 damage to them, which shouldn't take forever, to drop them. But the thing is, you'd only get a handful of them when you cast it. And a handful is best. That means you have maximum caster levels. Compassionate Ally. Target is compelled to help injured ally. That's not going to be very useful. Delay Pain. Ignores pain for 1 hour per level. Let's see how that really works. Delay Pain. Close range. 1 creature. 1 hour per level. Pain effects such as Pain Strike and Symbol of Pain do not affect the target until the spell's duration has expired. But it doesn't do anything else. So overall, it's not going to be useful even if your Strike Force would have it, unless you see those spells often. Disfiguring Touch. Target becomes disfigured. There you go, single target. Dreadbolt. Harm and possibly sickens good creatures. Could be useful if you're fighting good creatures, so if you're the evil side, or if it's just 2 good forces fighting each other. But it's probably a single target, so you'd have to put that on ammunition to use. Imbue with Aura. Target emulates your cleric aura. That'd be a great subterfuge if you're trying to hide your forces that your strike forces that are striking. You cast that on a couple of soldiers and have them run around. Masterwork Transformation makes a normal item into a Masterwork one. That's a permanent change. I remember that. And it's the same cost as a Masterwork item. So that could really upgrade a military's armaments. If you could, say, sack a castle, gain enough gold that you pay your soldiers well, but you also have enough left over to really upgrade their equipment, you could then go back, instead of taking the time to do it, you just cast that on it, and it's already upgraded. Protective Penumbra. Shadow protects the target from light. That's good if you were, say, undead, like vampire. Shard of Chaos. Harm and possibly slow lawful creatures. Good if, again, if you're fighting a lot of lawful outsiders, you could use that. Spear of Purity. Harm and possibly blind evil creatures. That could be useful. But I believe it is a single target. Close range, so 25 feet plus 5 feet per 2 levels. Will save partial. Spell resistance, yes. One target touched. It does a D8 per 2 levels for an evil creature For an evil outsider, they take 1d6 per level up to 10 and is blinded for 1 round. Will save negates the blindness. Okay. Surmount affliction temporarily suppresses 1 condition. That could be useful with that detect disease earlier. Web shelter creates a comfortable shelter made of webbing. That can be useful in a way, but as devious as me and my players are, you use web shelter, we would just go around with fire and burn it all. So that would be the downside. The upside is you have a shelter automatically. 3rd level cleric spells. Agonize. Pain encourages an outsider to obey you. Interesting. So you can gain control of an outsider that way. Archon's Aura. Aura penalize enemy attacks and AC. If you could get that on your soldiers, that'd probably be very useful. Let's look that one up. Range 20 feet, area 20-foot radius centered on you, lasts a minute per level. Until hit, it would suffer, if it failed its save until hit, it would suffer a -2 to attack rolls and saves and to its armor class for the duration of the spell. So if you had that, say, on all your shield wall shields, and they all activated it before the major clash, then when the clash begins, everyone that they're against, until they do damage to the person holding the shield, would have a -2 to their AC, a -2 to their attack rolls, -2 to their saves. That could be very useful. And it's a radius thing too. You wouldn't have to put that on all your soldiers. You could put it on every 4 soldiers because it's a 20-foot radius. Badger's Ferocity. Weapons are keen while you concentrate. Useful for your strike team, not useful for the army. Blessing of the Mole. 1 ally per level gains dark vision and a +2 stealth bonus. Very useful for your strike team. Key Leech. Add to your key pool when you critically hit. I don't critically hit enough for that to be useful, and that would not be that useful for your whole military. Sands of Time. Target temporarily ages. You hit an older person in the military with that, and that can really hurt them. You put that on ammunition for 1-use items, and you impact enough people and they age in front of everybody like that, there's a good intimidation to that, as well as it lowers their physical stats for that combat. Symbol of Healing. Triggered rune heals living creatures. That can be great for healing your army. Vision of Hell. Illusionary hellscape makes creatures shaken. That would definitely be useful. 4th level cleric spells. Aura of Doom. Creatures in your aura become shaken. So it's a fear effect. So those that are immune to fear effects, like paladins, would be immune to it. But you're looking at military combat. So with military combats, that could be very useful. Blood. Crow Strike. Unarmed Strike creates crows that deal fire and negative energy damage. If your army consisted of some monks, that would be very useful. Control Summon Creature. If you had a few reserved scrolls for your actual spellcasters, if the enemies start summoning creatures, you can use this on them because it'll give you control up. Flesh Worm Infestation. Worms deal HP and dex damage. That just sounds creepy, so let's look that one up. Range of touch, creature touched, 1 round per level. So although creepy, it would not help you in the battlefield. Oracle's Vessels, Oracle only. Target gains benefit of your Oracle's curse. So not going to be useful. Plague Carrier, target attacks carry Filth Fever. If you're the evil side, or you want to do Germ Warfare, put that on a bunch of one-use ranged weapons. Alternatively, you could just launch corpses over the walls, the way the Mongols did. Ride the Waves, target can breathe water and swim. Soothe Construct, reduce the berserk condition of a construct. If a construct's really hard to deal with, that can be very useful. If you see a construct in a military battle, though, that thing's pretty much going to be a big target. So the more potent it is, the more you're going to need that. Spit Venom, spit Blinding Black Adder Venom. That could be useful against a single target. If you could give that to multiple soldiers as a one-use thing, that'd be very useful. Symbol of Slowing, triggered rune slows creatures. That could be useful. Terrible Remorse, creature is compelled to harm itself. That's not as great. The slowing symbol would be the best because out of the last two, because it allows you to control how fast you're moving because you've controlled how slow your enemy's moving. Astral Projection Lesser, not going to be useful. Contagion Greater, infect a subject with a magical disease. Could be useful if you're doing the Germ Warfare. Curse of Magic Negation, target gains the negated spell blight. Useful if you're targeting a spellcaster, but that'd be a single spellcaster. Unless you're able to take out all their spellcasters or have one-use items of that, that'll last for a couple of days and trigger that with the one-use items to the spellcasters of their enemy force. It's not going to be good enough to change the outcome of a battle. Major Curse. That's just an interesting spell, but it's not going to help you in a big battle. Fickle Winds. Wind Walls selectively block attacks. Interesting. But it's Wind Walls, so it's going to be useful. Greater Forbidden Action. That one has a lot more creatures it can select, 1 creature per level, so by 5th level you're looking at 11 creatures, so that's going to be useful. Holy Ice. Create wall or javelins of frozen holy water. That can be very useful, especially against undead. Rapid Repair. Construct gains fast healing 5. Ooh. Now you need to bring in the constructs on your side, and then you have a way to heal them. If you put those on one-use items, that'd be even better. Reprobation. Marked target is shunned by your religion. Serenity. Peaceful feelings harm those attempting violence. That could be useful. I'm not 100% sure how, but I'd throw that on a bunch of one-use items and give it to your military to use. Especially if you have a force that doesn't mind to take damage for a turn, say a small force of berserkers that once they take that damage, they're going to really hurt the enemy. The enemy will be confused because they'll have all those peaceful feelings and not want to attempt violence. And if they have those feelings without attempting the violence, they might not attack the berserkers. So the berserkers would be unharassed for a good portion of the fight before they really waylay in. Symbol of scrying. Allows you to scry an area, so that's more or less like the way motion sensor cameras work. So unholy ice. So there's your unholy version of the same holy ice. 6th level cleric spells. Cold Ice Strike. Cone of ice slivers deal 1d6 cold damage per level. That'll be useful because that's a cone. You put that on, say, a horn, a one-use horn. You blow this horn at the enemy, creates this cone of ice. You could take out a section. You apply it, if you could get to the flanks of the enemy, you could apply it to the lines deep in. Epidemic infects a subject with a highly contagious disease. Now that's a way to do germ warfare. Joyful Rapture, negate harmful emotions. Plague Storm, cloud infects creatures like contagion. That can be useful. Symbol of Sealing, creates triggered wall of force. That'd be useful if you need to create an ambushed area. And that's it for the cleric spells 1 through 6. So let's look at the druid spells real quick. Their list isn't quite as long, but there's going to be a lot of carryover. So if I see something new, we will stop to really talk about it. Otherwise, I'm just going to read the list as I go. Decomposed Corpse, diagnose disease, frostbite, target takes cold damage and is fatigued. That could be useful. Put that on a bunch of one-use items. Something you could lay around your enemy's camp. And every time they touch it, target gets cold damage and is fatigued. You do that to enough of the soldiers pre-battle, they're going to have a really hard time dealing with the battle. Ray of Sickening. Remove sickness, restore corpse, summon minor ally. Frigid Touch. Masterwork Transformation. Pernicious Poison. Target takes -4 penalty against poison. Not going to be useful in the big war. Tarball. Burning tar harms target and penalizes its dex. If you could apply that to a bunch of arrows, you apply that to a bunch of projectiles, that would be very useful. Wartime Mount. Animal gains the combat training general purpose. That'd be useful. Web Shelter. Anthropomorphic animal. Animal becomes bipedal. That'd be weird. Ash Storm. Hamper vision and movement. That can be very useful. Badger's Ferocity. Weapons are keen while you concentrate. Like I said, not that great. Burrow. Target gains a burrow speed of 15. That can be useful when you need to tunnel. So if you needed to get a bunch of people, give them a one-use item of burrow, and they can now tunnel at speed of 15 feet. They're going to be able to really create those tunnels that go under or into fortresses and whatnot. Burst of Nettles. I believe that is an area, so that would be great. Fungal Infestation. Target takes bleed from attacks. Mad Monkeys. Summon a swarm of mischievous monkeys. Rain of Frogs. Summon a swarm of poisonous frogs. Both of those spells would be great chaos to a shield wall style combat. Summon a bunch of mad monkeys in the middle of that. Summon a bunch of poisonous frogs in the middle of that. They're going to start to dissolve into chaotic ranks. They're not going to be able to fight your forces very well. Spit Venom. Vermin Shape 1. Take the form of and some of the powers of a small or medium vermin. Not going to be great unless you pick something very deadly, but even then. age resistance lesser, ignore penalties from middle age. Arboreal hammer, tree branches attack opponents. That'd be great to use in a forest as you're about to engage your enemies, especially if you can apply it to a lot of trees. Even if it was just like one-use runes you were putting up everywhere that activated the trees. Once the trees attacked for the duration of the spell, it'd be done. It'd still be very useful in that situation. Atavism, animal gains advanced creature simple template. That can be useful to make your creature a little bit stronger, but it wouldn't be great unless you're doing it to a group of them. Cape of Wasps. Wasp swarm defends or carries you. Interesting. That would be chaos by itself if the swarm defends you. Echolocation. Sonic Sense gives you blind sight 40 feet. Plague Carrier. Ride the waves. Touch of slime. Touch infests a target with green slime. Ooh, that'd be mean. Vermin Shape 2. A vermin shape, but tiny or large. Volcanic Storm. Hot rock deals 5d6 damage. Fifth level druid spells. Contagion Greater. Fickle Winds. Raise Animal Companion. As raise dead, but on an animal. Reprobation. Sixth level druid spells. Age resistance, ignore penalties from old age. That'd be useful for your individuals. I'm seeing a lot of use for that in games where you have a lot of time pass by. Eagle Airy, summon one giant eagle per 3 levels. Epidemic, infect a subject with a highly contagious disease. Plague Storm, cloud infects creatures like contagion. Well, there wasn't a lot of new ones, but there were some in the Druid list. If you enjoyed this, let me know. I will pick a different book and we will look at other spells from 1st to 6th level and see how they work as war magic in the medieval battlefield setting. Well, until we all meet again, guys.